So the book that I just finished producing is dedicated to my grandfather, Jorge Penagos, who is the reason why my family and I are here. In the mid-70s, he emigrated to the States, first through Texas, and he worked in the oil fields. He didn't like it too much, and then he ended up at a silk mill in Paterson, New Jersey. And he was a machinist and a welder there for over 30 years. And it wasn't until I started doing manual labor and getting up at those same hours as a teenager and as a person in my early 20s that I began to really value hard work. And my parents and my grandparents, they instilled that in my brother and I as well. But I think that you get a better sense of, and I certainly did, of the value of hard work. I know the value and importance that people put on religion and Catholicism, and because it's a form of community, and these things bring people together, and I respect people's point of views on these things. Like, I may disagree with a lot of these things, but I'm not that cynical that I'm going to be dismissive of it, because my mother's a practiced Catholic. A lot of the families that I photograph are practicing Catholics, and that's important to them. They have value in those things, and I'm not going to photograph those things in a way that is going to be dismissive of their belief systems. If I'm going to talk about, how much I appreciate the way I was raised and the environment I was raised in, and my family, and all these other people that I'm photographing, then I have to be way more active in the image making process. My process is extremely slow. I use a 4x5 camera for 90% of the things that I do. And so it's a lot of directorial process, I want to say, or just asking them to, just do me and just like slide over this way. Or what if you just tilt your, and it's interesting because they are more receptive to that than if I were to just show up with a digital camera and just start snapping away, where I found in the past they're not as relaxed and they want to pose a whole lot more. And so this has allowed me to really engage my subject both conceptually and aesthetically. There'd be light that would just sneak in through certain crevices or around certain racks where we'd have things drying, and I would see the way the light, the sunlight would just hit this, and I started thinking about how light can sort of direct this narrative and make these very ordinary things that really have no value other than the value to the person that's using it, and which allows them to make a living. But how do you transcend that from that physical object into a 2D object? And so it's like, oh, light does that, and I see the way light worked. I think about poetry and how that visually on the page, those words look, page to page, and that's the way I approached sequencing this book with Juan, was this rhythm, rhythm in light, rhythm in color, rhythm in the people in the images, whether they're my family or the families I photograph in the Midwest, and blurring that line between who my family is and who my working family has become, and who my subjects are.